Cool. Awesome. We are live. We're here. Mike, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I heard you weren't feeling too good. How are you?
Yeah, and we've got all the agents coming to the area on Sunday. So I've
Oh,
got a scratchy
okay.
throat. I woke up like I slept great, but I woke up super tired, scratchy throat. So I'm pounding emergency and water and
Mm,
vitamins, everything I can. So yeah, we'll make it through.
there you go.
Yeah, well, cool. We are here to talk a little bit about the high country of North Carolina today, which I think is interesting because, 2020 to like 2022, the high country was probably 50% of our business here, right? I mean, it was like people were really interested. People were talking about Banner Elk and Blowing Rock and, Seven Devils and all these other areas. And, today it's a little bit quieter. It's, what's going on in Asheville, what's going on in Bryson City and the Smokies of North Carolina. And I think for me, I want to put more attention back on the high country. And you're an expert up there. You've got a place. So tell us a little bit about your experience up in the high country.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was fortunate enough to my parents would have a place up there, so I'd always go up. We'd go skiing. We would go to Boone, all of those things, and I just fell in love with the area. We lived in Columbia, South Carolina, so every time we went up there, it was immediately better weather, cooler. In the wintertime, there was skiing. So I just fell in love with the region. And I went to school at Appalachian State just because, I liked it so much. Soon after that, I got a place up there as a short-term rental, and I've been going up there regularly quite a bit. It's just, I don't know, it feels like home to me. It's it's different. It's different than Asheville. And I think it goes to what you're saying. Asheville, people know Asheville's a city that's known around the country for a lot of different things, good or bad. Some areas in the high
Hurricanes.
country, yeah, hurricanes. Well, yeah, I mean that's where epicenter hurricane seems to be now, but it's a
We're
little
like
less
the new
known. So I
coast of
think
Florida.
right, right, yeah. No, I figured we were far enough to not have impacts. Boy, was I surprised.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so tell me a little bit about like what is the difference then between Asheville and the high country?
So, back to your question about being known, through the U.S. It's just it doesn't have the big name. There's not an airport there. The closest airport is Charlotte or even Winston-Salem. However, some of the big differences that we're seeing is one is just an elevation difference. It may not be the highest place in North Carolina, but overall the region is just a little bit higher in elevation. So I think we generally start around 3,000 feet and go up,
Hmm.
the mountain six, where Asheville is more 2 to 4, 2 to 5. So it brings a couple differences, right? So you got cooler summers for those people that are coming from Charlotte, where it's 95 degrees. It has skiing. There's I think 4 of the 5 top ski resorts in North Carolina are in the high country, so it
Hmm.
provides a more of a full season opportunity for short-term rentals. So I think those are the two big differences. A lot of the small town feel, good mountain town feel. Everyone is got a vibe to it. And in Asheville region, it's sort of hit and miss of where city you go to, what's there and what's to do. We're up
Yeah.
there. You can get to Boone, Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, and West Jefferson. Probably they're all within 15 minutes of each other. So may go do this in the morning and then go to another little town in the afternoon and do something different. So it's a difference between elevation and not a huge amount of people live there. It's more of a tourist attraction,
Yeah.
and the things are different to do.
Yeah, and I think constantly, you've got these top 10 lists, right? And so if you're looking for like quaint mountain towns, I mean, these are the quintessential quaint mountain towns, right? I mean, this is what people talk about. Downtown Blowing Rock, I mean, is literally the quintessential, mountain town, right? It's just so cute. The village of Banner Elk, getting up into Beach Mountain, you're in the country, but there's still modern amenities. There's good shopping, great food. ski resorts for the winter, outdoor activities like hiking, Grandfather Mountain in the summer. So they're really talking like year round things to do. And I think what's interesting is, you have Asheville, but Asheville's not for everybody, right? To your point, it's the city, right? You want to go to a mountain city, you're going to come to Asheville. You want like even elevated food, things like that, but you're not getting the town feel so much anymore. And so I think you've got this slide here. Let me share my screen real quick. And I think this is really nice. I've not really looked at this before, but you have got this here. I should have opened this in like a bigger, let's see. There we go. A little bit better. So you have this North Carolina population growth, which I think is really interesting because if you look over time, I mean, it's starting to increase a lot more significantly. North Carolina, #1 state for business the last few years. Here's the thing that I think people always forget, including myself, and I'm supposed to be, an expert on this stuff. But you've got here, it's the 28th largest state and the 9th largest population, which I think is interesting. But here's the thing that's really interesting for short-term rentals. We're #5 for tourism in the country.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people forget that. So let's talk about the first four really fast. The first one is California. Not a ton of people buying short-term rentals in California because of prices and regulations, right? You've got New York in there, same thing. You've got lots of regulations, difficult seasonality, things like that. You've got Florida, obviously tons of people going to Florida, but there you've got expensive insurance, right? Then you've got Texas, which obviously is just a big, massive state with lots of different places in it. And then you've got North Carolina. It's cheap. It's pretty affordable. Housing prices are comparably affordable to most of those much larger population states. Tourism is off the charts here, and it's above areas like Tennessee. It's above a lot of the other states in the country, and I think that people don't really realize that enough.
It is, and it's 4 seasons, right? You have fall, winter, spring, and fall, or summer. When it's summer, it's reasonably, temperate. In the winter, you get some snowfall, and in the fall, you get the leaves. So there's just things to do. Now, one thing that I found, like in this slide, I thought was important, is I'm seeing in the high country that about 50% of the people that come to the high country are from North Carolina. So that goes back to why I think the growth in North Carolina, the people coming to live there from all these states, and now that it's the, 9th biggest state out of, 50 states, and it's one of the 50% smaller states, it just shows that people are coming to this region. And then if you could draw this huge population now into a small sort of boutique place to come visit in the high country, you're all of a sudden doing well. So however you go about marketing just a couple hours away, whether you're doing some kind of geo fencing to pull these people as an advertisement over to Boone or Blowing Rock or wherever your Airbnb is, you now have a huge population of people that are going to come for those 2-3 hour weekends that a lot of places don't have. And seeing that population growth is just, it's the main driver of this whole thing.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And then we have, it's also important here on this next slide is, it's now North Carolina is the 5th largest as far as tourism goes. I mean, that's amazing. Like
that's crazy.
There's 4 states we talked about. All of a sudden, now you have a 5th largest population or a state that has the 5th highest tourism revenues in the country. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think we need to promote this more.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's a big number and it's kind of relatively small state. So, we have the North Carolina's got the beach and the mountains, which is great. Maybe it's a 50-50 split, but millions and millions of people in this central corridor of Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, the Research Triangle, they're looking for things to do for a weekend. So being able to have a place just a couple hours away, nobody wants to go on a weekend trip that's a 6-hour trip. These are 2 or 3 hour trips.
Yeah.
Pulling those over. So it makes less sense to market to Atlanta and things like that, because if you think about it, Tyler, Georgia's got its own North Georgia mountains, and it's easier to get the Highlands. It's easier to get to Asheville than it is the High Country.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out a way to market back to your own state where these large cities are that are growing like crazy is huge to the potential that you could have from an income standpoint.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just find it fascinating every time I think about this that we're beating an area like Tennessee. Tons of people are always talking about Tennessee. People are always talking about the Smokies, Nashville, for instance. I mean, there's not a city like Nashville in North Carolina, yet we're continuing to get more tourists that are spending more money, which I think is another really important fact there. You look at Raleigh, Durham, that whole research triangle area, tons of tech companies are coming there. And what happens when tech companies come in. Other people start coming in, they need to come work in the data centers and they're there in support staff. The tech workers themselves are coming there. People are flocking here from Florida. People are flocking here from the Northeast. People are coming from Texas and California, and I don't see any which way that growth stops. Especially if you've been to a city like Raleigh or Charlotte, they're actually handling the growth really well. I think Charlotte's nice. The downtown is clean. It's nice. The streets are nice. There's definitely traffic that you're experiencing, but they're expanding the highways, and I think they're keeping up with the growth really, really well, where some other cities didn't do that grew kind of ahead of themselves and grew too fast. And like I think Atlanta's that way. It grew too fast. It's too big. You can't ever get anywhere anymore. And in North Carolina, cities seem to be handling that really well.
Yeah, the way to get from Charlotte to Boone is up 77, I-77, and they spent 10 years over the last decade figuring that out. Now you're going to pay a little bit of tolls, but you can get from Charlotte to Boone in 2 hours, and it's consistent. So they figured that out ahead of the population growth, which is great. Nobody wants to sit on an interstate and on their way to the mountains, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I really like this slide right here. I think this is all really important. So break this down for us.
Yeah. So North Carolina tourism kind of broke down the 3 segments of their state and kind of what are the drivers. So you have the coastal, you have the Piedmont, where we're talking about these cities are, and then the mountains. So some of this statistics kind of rolls in the Asheville region along with the high country, but I find it, very, very interesting. So the first quadrant on the left, the charts talk about just the purpose. Why are they going to the mountains? Well, that whole leisure number is huge, right? So they're going to have fun. They're going to go stay somewhere. They're not going for business. They're not going for visiting relatives. They're going to have a good time, have a week or a weekend to go enjoy the mountains. So it just shows, that you're not competing against people coming. People that are coming to spend money on tourism.
Yeah.
Below there, so the origin, I think this is kind of important because I noticed on origin of these states where these people are coming, it's mostly from the South, right?
Yeah.
So Florida, North Carolina itself, South Carolina, somewhat Georgia, these mountains are the closest mountains to them. So in Tennessee or in Ohio, you're competing against the Smoky Mountains. You're competing against maybe in West Virginia, where I think it's important to realize that all of these people are coming from the South or from the East. This is the closest place for them to go to enjoy some mountain good times. So,
yeah, and I think it's really interesting that just 3 states are making up over 50%, quite a bit, almost 75% of the travel to the high country. And for anybody just tuning in, what we're talking about today is really not so much Asheville. We're talking about the high country of North Carolina, which is Boone, Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, Sugar Mountain, Beech Mountain, West Jefferson area.
Yep.
Okay, so what else are we seeing here?
So, got some information on why they're coming. People are coming to go, sport events, whether it's hiking, biking, skiing, and I think it's probably wrapped in that top number. And I found shopping at number 2 interesting. So you don't need to go to New York to go shopping. You can enjoy these quaint little mountain towns that have these main streets that are lined. And I have some webcams maybe we can look at, but they're lined with shops, they're lined with restaurants, and their parking lots are full, and the people are crowding the streets. So they're coming just for that vibe of shopping in a little picturesque mountain town. is interesting. I think a lot of these you can answer more than they answered more than one, but it just kind of gave a breakdown of that. And then the next slide over, I also find is interesting. I think this is really important from a short-term rental standpoint too. Is
This
you go,
slide here.
no, you can go back up to the right. I'm sorry, Doug.
Okay.
Is when they're coming. So a lot of people always ask, when are your high seasons? And the mountains of North Carolina is pretty balanced. So I grabbed the coastal region just as an example, because it's important when you have a short-term rental that, hey, if you're trying to budget and you're looking at your whole expense and your whole revenue for the year, you want to make sure that you handle the high season right and you reallocate your money when times aren't as good. We're in the mountains, and I think it's spring, summer, fall, winter is the deal here, but they were all pretty close. So I think that's really helpful as a short-term rental owner, that you have a sort of a year-long balanced, expectation of your revenue. And you maybe going to have a couple down weeks here and there, but overall, you don't have to worry about the accounting and the economics of figuring that out to make sure that you you don't go overboard when the times are good. And
I think this is such a huge point to make in short-term rentals, because I think people don't pay enough attention to this. When you're in a beach market, there are numerous things that are going to take your house offline, right? Whether it's a storm or whether you have a water leak or somebody throws a party, you have to make repairs, things like that. Those times when those things happen, if you're in an incredibly seasonal market, one, typically it's going to take longer during those high season times to actually get anything done, because high season for tourism is high season for everything else, right? 41% of the contractors at the coast are going to be really stinking busy the whole time during that time. So things are going to take longer to get back online. And if you miss one season, you're now a year and a half behind in the hole on some sort of a major issue, right? And I was talking with a client of mine earlier who unfortunately had her well go dry, who were trying to help figure out what's next. And she's like, goodness, thank God this is happening in February, where I only have $8,000 in bookings, and not in July, where I already have almost $40,000 in bookings on the books. She's like, thank God this is happening at this time. But just imagine though, seasonality, if she was at the coast and that did happen in summer, you're screwed, not only for this season, but because you just waited through one low season. Now you got to go through another just to get to another high season. And potentially it's a killer for your profits over multiple years versus being in a market that's relatively flat with some, travel fluctuation, but that in all seasons, you should be making some sort of money.
Yes, completely agree. Completely agree.
Yeah. Cool.
So you had mentioned a couple of the small towns, in this region. So I call it the 4Bs. You got Boone, Banner Elk, and Blowing Rock. They're all pretty close together. They all have a lot of similar characteristics. But I wanted to kind of show here, hey, one, we have the altitude, right? So it's a big difference in what Asheville provides, and it's a big difference in Charlotte, which is probably 500 feet. So altitude's important for the temperature in the summertime. I really am a big believer, when it's 95 degrees and people are sweating in their suits walking downtown Charlotte or Raleigh, that in the back of their head is like, gosh, I wish I could go up to the high country and enjoy the cooler weather and get out. Just wanted to show just consistently, each of these towns is 3,500 or so feet in elevation, which is pretty substantial. Average snowfall. So you got those 4 years, and back to that seasonal chart. You have snowfall, which equates to people want to come see the snow, go tubing, go skiing. And this is the place in North Carolina that has it. And then there's summers that are cooking, high temperature in July is in the 70s, which is, I think just a huge difference than Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh.
Yeah. I think one thing to really focus on here, and I want to look at Banner Elk on this too, is that all the metrics are up. If you look at Banner Elk real quick, occupancy is up in Banner Elk. This is year over year. This is post-hurricane, y'all. This is literally, we just had a massively devastating event happen to our area and tourism and attractions and Look at annual revenue up 3%, average daily rates up 7%, RevPAR up 5%. I think the reason why Boone is down 2% where Blowing Rock is up 1% is likely because of the school. I think that the school brings a lot of visitors to Boone in terms of sporting events and things like that. That was likely shut down for quite a while after the hurricane. So for me, that's kind of what I'm going to attribute that to. But here is the most interesting part. You could say, okay, well, it's great if all those things are up, but if the number of listings is increasing, obviously you've got saturation happening. Here is what's happening in North Carolina right now. Total active listings in Boone is down 4% year over year. So you've got every other metric up, occupancy flat, fluctuating in the different cities, but you've lost 4% of your inventory growth here, and you're going back down to 2023 levels, and it is sharply on its way back down. One thing that I talked to a local property manager about yesterday at a meetup was that a lot of these kind of lower tier short-term rentals that don't compete at the top have gone back to long-term rentals, midterm rentals, things like that. This is a huge opportunity going forward because now we've just gone back a few years in inventory, yet there's not a reason for tourism to stop coming to this area because one storm hit. That doesn't make any sense.
It was
People
a
are not
once
going
in
to.
a lifetime storm too.
Yeah, they're not going to stop coming here, right? In fact, I think that they're actually going to come here in droves, and I've seen it this past weekend in Asheville. You couldn't find a parking spot in downtown, and it was February 1st, like the most empty weekend typically of the year, the just the middle of the slowest season here, and I couldn't find a parking spot downtown, and to get into Chai Pani was an hour and a half wait.
Yep, I saw the
Um,
same thing in Boone when I was there last weekend. Same thing.
It's crazy. So then we look at Banner Elk, you've got plus 8% annual revenue, plus 8% average daily rate. By the way, these are compounding, right? Plus 1% occupancy rate and plus 10% revenue per available rental. Imagine what this would have been, Mike, if we didn't
We
get
had,
hit by a hurricane.
yep,
These
absolutely.
would be massive double digits.
I mean, I lost everything in October. I don't know about what you saw, but every booking I just wiped out in October. And that's a heavy month. That's the Leaf season. That's App State football.
It's the
That's
number one month. Yeah.
yeah, I think it is. So
Yeah. So I think this is really impressive. And again, I mean, I just can't reiterate it enough. Minus 2% total active listings, which is just mind blowing. So all the metrics are up and the number of listings are down. Okay, so let's talk. Tell us a little bit about Blowing Rock.
yeah, Blowing Rock sits over by the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's right on the where the elevation really starts dropping. But Blowing Rock's great again because it's the closest probably of all these towns to these cities, right? So you quickly go up an elevation, but it's only a 2 hour drive, if that, maybe an hour and 45 minutes from Charlotte. So you're wiping off a little bit of time just to get up to the Boone and Banner Elk areas. It's got a great vibe downtown. You walk Main Street and you have parks, you have these great restaurants, you have shopping. Blowing Rocks is a fantastic. It's a little bit higher in elevation, but it's just great from a standpoint of getting there so smooth and easy. Up 321 is a piece of cake. It's a 4-lane highway going 60 mile an hour. So
Yeah, and I
it's
think you've got two Ashita design properties that are just absolutely crushing it in Blowing Rock, doing over $250,000 a year in revenue. And for anyone that's watching, if you guys want to see what those comps look like, Ashita has only designed two houses up there. So for us, there's really only a few super properties like Bill Faith's, for instance, that exist up in the high country. There's like a handful. Other than that, this is a ripe area for super properties. We've been kind of dominating Asheville with them for the last 2 years. The high country has kind of escaped that. So I think it's a really, really good area to look in. And you can see if you look at those comp properties that are doing that sort of revenue, and Mike is happy to share those with you if you want to book a call with him at savvy.realty/Mike.
yep.
Cool. Okay, so here we are looking at West Jefferson. Tell us a little bit about this because I always talk to people, and it's kind of about this little rectangle area of Banner Elk down to Sugar Mountain, over to Blowing Rock, up to Boone, and maybe everything in the middle, like Seven Devils and things like that. So tell us a little bit about West Jefferson in this area.
Yeah, I think West Jefferson has probably one of the best potentials in the future of any of these, just because it's not saturated at all. I mean, hardly people have heard of it, but it's an amazing, quaint downtown. It's got the elevation. It's a little bit away from the ski slopes, but it's heading up toward Virginia, so you can get north and a lot of things that offers quickly. The main thing is there's a highway that goes from pretty much from Boone to West Jefferson. It's 221, and it used to be a 2-lane, windy, 35-mile-an-hour highway, but I think in like 2022 or something, they completed the 4-lane interstate between West Jefferson and Boone. So now you can get there quickly. It doesn't feel like it's a little bit more remote. It's about a 25-minute drive. West Jefferson's huge on cheese, and it's also huge on Christmas trees. So if you ever want to go up there and cut you down a Christmas tree, West Jefferson is the place to go.
And need a bunch of cheese and wine.
That's
Cool.
right.
Once again, all the metrics are up. Occupancy fluctuating a little bit, down 1%. To only be down 1% year over year post hurricane is this number would be considerably up if we hadn't had that hurricane wipe out October, which, as you can see, is one of the biggest months of the year here. Average daily rates up 4%, revenue per available rentals up 4%. And once again, number of listings is down 1% year over year. So the numbers are looking really, really good in these areas. Okay, what's next? What
Yeah,
else do you want to talk
talk a
about?
little bit about skiing because going back to that all season still in many mountain places that don't have skiing, winter's a dead month, right? But if you have skiing, and these are the top 5 in the area, 4 of them or 3 of them at least are up in the high country. But just the amount of tourism it brings, the amount of numbers, the amount of visitors was huge when I was kind of doing a little bit of research here. That contributed 244 million to the economy. People coming up from those towns to go skiing. Beach and Sugar are the probably most famous, well known. Beach is the highest ski slope east of the Mississippi. They
Mm-hmm.
both have black diamond runs. They both have big snowboarding and some 4 season type of activity. But this is a place to go skiing. This is it's not Colorado by any stretch, but it lasts from middle of November to the end of March consistently because it's 5,000 feet in elevation. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge draw to this, again, specifically to the high country of North Carolina. And, Banner Elk is really known for it because its Beach and Sugar kind of sit right there and it's at the bottom of those hills. But Appalachian Ski Mountains is also a really great family oriented run, and it sits between Blowing Rock and Boone. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be over there in Banner Elk to say, hey, I'm 5 minutes, 10 minutes from a great ski resort, because where it's located is only a couple minutes from both Blowing Rock and Boone. So to be able to again promote, no matter where you're getting a short-term rental in this area, you can say, hey, I'm close to skiing, which is really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And some of these ski areas also offer different things during the summer, right? I know Beach Mountain is doing a lot of mountain biking recently. They're bringing in more, leaf peeping and things like that. Obviously, Wolf Ridge, we know, is now the new Hatley Point, which is an incredible high-end luxury boutique ski resort now, just launched 2 months ago, just
Yeah.
finally got their approved permits after 2 years, and has been sold out every single day since they've been open. We'll be there this Sunday with the entire team out there skiing for the Super Bowl. So I do think that obviously this isn't Vail, this isn't Breckenridge, but it is really easy to load up in a Tahoe from Florida and head up to the slopes here with a family of 5 versus spending 8, 10, $15,000 trying to hit Colorado, right?
Yeah. It's the
So I
only
think that
option.
that's really important.
Yeah, we got a couple web links. If you want to click on one or two, you can see what these ski resorts look like. I got Sugar Beach, live cams. Just kind of show you. It's warm this last week or two, but it's still snow covered. People are coming out there. This is a Thursday, right? Thursday at 3 o'clock. I'll
I'm just
show you
watching
this on
this
a
guy
Saturday.
try to walk uphill in his skis. I don't know what he's doing, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun to click on these live cams and just kind of see what's going on. You can always see how much snow's up there and things like that. But
I mean, it looks like a lot of fun, right? There's definitely a lot going on here. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, let's go back. So that was Beach Mountain. Let's take a look at Sugar Mountain. I mean, what's amazing is our bluebird days here, right? So you've got snow on the ground and
Yep.
they blow snow at night, but I mean, you're 55 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised if there's people out here in shorts, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. You see some banner elk there at the bottom. It's partial banner elk over there.
Yep. That's
Yeah, no, it's
amazing.
great spring skiing. I mean, it was obviously brutally cold
For a few
in
weeks.
January, so they're but yeah, just see, is that
Here's app.
is app? Yeah, we got a great little trick run, I guess they run right there.
Yeah, they've got a good terrain
Rain
park
park.
there. Yeah. Yeah, it's
But
really cool.
yeah, again, I would love to show you these on Saturday, just to show the activity. They're kind of fun
Yeah.
to watch. But
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, there's people out there. It's, Thursday at 3 o'clock and 60 degrees outside. I mean, I bet there's Canadians out there skiing in
in
shorts.
shorts, oh, I bet. Love it.
Very cool. Okay. So yeah, tell us about, just a little bit about the area entertainment. We've gone over a little bit, y'all, but hang out with us to learn a little bit more about the high country of North Carolina and the Boone, Blowing Rock, Beach Mountain, Sugar Mountain area, and why it's so good to invest in short-term rentals here.
Yeah, so front and center at the top is Appalachian State football. That stadium holds they get about 35,000 a game in there, and I think that's super important because again, going back to where we are, the alumni live in Charlotte, the alumni live in Raleigh, and all of those areas. They're coming for these 6 weekends a year, for packing the stadium we call the Rock, 6 times a year and possibly some playoffs. So when they come up for these games, alumni or maybe just somebody visiting their kid that goes there to watch a game, guess what? They're not staying in a hotel usually. They want to bring their kid over for the barbecue after the game, so they're getting Airbnbs. And I
Yeah.
just think it sits right there in beautiful Boone. I mean, you see Boone in the background, kind of what that looks like, and it's just whether it's here or whatever. I think college football is a draw and a big win if you can capitalize on it if you have a short-term rental. And this is a great one. The attendance leader in the state, I believe.
Yeah.
To the right there, you see the viaduct, the Blue Ridge Parkway. It goes around Grandfather Mountain. A lot of people visit that. Probably, maybe the number, Tyler, but it's millions probably a year.
13 13 million a year. It's actually the most visited national park in the country. A lot of people don't count it because it's a road and it goes through multiple states. So they say that the Smoky Mountain National Park is the #1 national park in a year, but the Blue Ridge Parkway gets more travelers on it every year than go to the Smoky Mountain National Park, which is crazy, right? And here's an interesting thing about investing in the high country this year. From the Linco Viaduct and from Linville up to Grandfather Mountain, they've said the Blue Ridge Parkway is going to be open this year. But after that, there's something like in just one area, 44 landslides from the hurricane. So they're not sure if the rest of the Blue Ridge Parkway or what pieces of it are actually going to be open this year. That's going to drive a lot of new traffic to the high country because the Blue Ridge Parkway is going to be totally open in that area. And that's not just a one-time event, right? You might think, okay, well, they're just going to go for this year. This is going to bring a lot of new people, which is what happened in Asheville during COVID. And those people turn into repeat visitors, which increases tourism there for the rest of time. You're going to get all sorts of influencers and you're going to get social media posts and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. That's going to now increase the visibility of this area, which will pour more tourism dollars, which will be used to create new attractions, new marketing budgets, things like that. All that sort of stuff just continues to snowball, has a snowball effect.
Yep. I think the only other one I wanted to point out is bottom left. And this is a Grandfather Mountain. This is a park that you can visit. There's a swinging bridge up there, and it brings about 600,000 people a year. So you're sitting up there, and you go up there, you're at almost 6,000 feet in elevation. Great park. You got a zoo up there, and just so many things. You got the
Yeah.
woolly worm. There's festivals left and right everywhere in the summer and fall. People go to woolly worm's one of my favorite. Just a lot of things to do is sort of the point. It's you can get out, drive around, and you're not going to have to go too far to find some entertainment. So I wanted to just kind of showcase a couple homes. Definitely if you wanted to see more and you're interested, give us a call and we can kind of talk about these. I got three different price ranges here. Got a little bit higher. Tyler, you had mentioned that you had sold the one kind of a couple houses down from this one, and it's a great story
Yeah.
of what they were able to do.
Yeah, this one, I mean, they just did such an incredible job designing this property, and it's done incredibly well so far. The builder's also really, really easy to work with, so a lot of good potential there. I do think that the list price is likely a little bit flexible. Either we can go in there and get some really good seller credits, or we could get a pretty decent chunk off the price. Maybe both. It has a theater room, all that sort of stuff. It's got great mountain views. And talk about what's the best comp for it. It's on the same street as the last one. Same
Yeah,
builder, same floor plan. There you go.
it's about as good of a comp as you can get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So tell us about this next one.
Yeah, next one is more in the 660 range. It's also in Blowing Rock. 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I believe it's got some views. Found some comps that are, suggesting that this thing could probably earn, 80 to 90 in the 90s a year. And it's just it's a typical home that you're going to find up there. A lot of cabins are up there. A lot of these, when you go inside, it's a traditional, log cabin decorated that way in the woods, and you're going to be able to, have a great fire outside and probably not travel too far to go on a hike. So kind of a prototypical home there. The one on the right was in West Jefferson. I found it interesting because it's a
Yeah.
4 bedroom. It's going to take a little bit of money, but look at that price. And I'm seeing comps that for a 4 bedroom home, you put a little bit of money in there, you're going to earn up to that same amount as you could. And it's got a garage you can convert. It's got a beautiful yard. It's got
Yeah.
a huge view. It's like 360-degree view. And you're going to
Wow.
get on that for under $400,000, $350,000. So just as an example of a deal, right? I mean, it's not always the brand new listings. I mean, that's been sitting on the market for a little while.
Yeah.
All these have a little bit. So
Yeah.
deals are
Yeah.
out there. Deals are out there for sure.
Deals are out there. I mean, you might look at, the high country and see pretty expensive, but I think kind of like the Smokies, we can go in there and try to negotiate a good deal, right? So I would love to be, focusing a little bit more on this area. We've really put a big focus on Asheville over the last few months, and Mike's a total expert up there. Mike owns up there. He went to App State. I mean, you've spent more years up there than I've certainly been in Asheville, right? So y'all, if you're interested, please go take a look at that. Let me get back here. I've been kind of on this slideshow the whole time, so let me pull this out of here and just see if we had any quick questions from anybody. Yeah, feel free to drop through. Hi. Okay, awesome. Well, guys, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments, and we're happy to get in there and answer them too. And please book a call with Mike. It's savvy.realty/Mike, and then we'll go ahead and get this sent out as a recording to everybody as well. Do you have any parting thoughts, Mike?
Nope.
Awesome.
Have fun at have fun skiing on Sunday.
Yeah. We'll give it a good college try.
That's right.
All
All right,
right.
Tyler.
Thank you, guys.